It says stop streaming.
Oh, snap. I think we figured that one out. But how do we know if it's there?
You want to hit this and then see if it goes?
Let me go to the YouTube channel. YouTube, where are you? YouTube. I have this other kid that been working on this program for 4 years as a producer.
Yeah.
But even on the show that I took him from, like I got him from, on that show, it was okay.
Are we streaming while you're saying this?
Yeah, it doesn't matter because we're gonna erase it. Even on that show. Oh yeah, it says live right here, but look at it's not. There's not. Oh, it's black. Just go ahead, play. I can hear it out here. All right, we're going live. Relax. What time is it? 5 Yes. Here I am. Welcome back to another exciting episode of A Dad's Perspective. I am your host, Jay Chattel, and this podcast is all about building the best dads we can possibly be because I want to be the best dad I can possibly be. This week's topics are going to be it's all around the faith, around teaching our children the importance of having faith, having a belief in a higher power. I believe in God, so that's where I'm at. I have a strong belief in it. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I don't know. This is why we are here, to try to prove, what are the best methods of being the best dads we can possibly be. I did some research this week and I came up with some stuff here. It said a good father molds his kids into well-rounded members of society. He especially instructs them in proper etiquette on being honest and keeping their word and on being thankful. A great father knows he must sacrifice his own comfort for his fatherly duties. There's some great points over here like dependability, involvement, compassion, valuing their mother, empathy, being human, honesty, playfulness, and being instrudious. Actually, I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to pull up my dictionary on that one. It says a model of healthy work ethic as a source of personal accomplishment and satisfaction. This isn't necessarily associated only with work. It's a valuable attitude towards tasks and in general. So, that's pretty good right there. I'm digging. I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I feel like educating ourselves and researching and getting out of our comfort zone, and because our moms and dads probably didn't teach us all the best things, but it's what we've grown accustomed to believe in. It was the best thing, but really, is it the best? Because look at today's society. Is today's society the best society it's ever been? I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know what the proper authority on that is, but I know what feels right and wrong, and I'm not the end all be all of all that. But I do have a great guest today, a great guest. I met this brother at a poetry event. No surprise, I am your poet, and I was at a poetry event, and he was not even introduced as a pastor at first when they first brought him on, and then he relieved he is a pastor, and I kind of see the audience shift, like, on their content, and they started apologizing to him, like he, I don't know, they started apologizing to him for their content. So he's like, hey, you be you, and I'm not here to judge it, and that was pretty cool. And from day one, I walked out of that place after the show was over. The vibe with this man was spiritually connected to me. It made me feel like I needed more time with him. Fast forward to a couple weeks later, at the home offices of CLC Construction, I run into him outside of his church, which is actually in the same exact building. Coincidence? I think not. The same exact building that I was in. Well, let's just bring our guest on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Pastor Donavon Woodruff. How you doing, brother?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm blessed, man. Every day is an outstanding day. Sometimes it's amazing, but as long as we stay grateful, then it's going to be good, right?
That's good.
What's going on with you?
Oh, man, I am just enjoying life right now.
Nice.
Just, a lot of people say that 2020 was a bad year, but for me, it was just filled with a lot of blessings. So,
well, that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's no surprise. You're a man of faith, You're...
Well, it's not always that way. It's not always that way. Even being a man of faith, you have those seasons where all's not well. But I can definitely say it was a blessed season for me, and the blessings just keep on coming. The fact that I'm here is a blessing. So.
Oh, praise God, man. That's good to hear right now, right? Because so many people have negative and bad things they want to share, and to hear that, it's encouraging. So not only are you a pastor, you're a dad.
Yes, I am.
How many children do you have?
Well, four.
Four.
Four children. My wife and I have four children. Unfortunately, my oldest son passed away.
Okay.
But we've got three beautiful kids, and
I knew that.
He was a blessing while he was here.
Like I said, we vibed like amazingly.
Yes.
So tell us more. So your children, ages,
oh boy,
sexes, whatever, boys, girls, mixes.
Well, my oldest is the one and only girl, and she just turned 30 last year.
All right.
And she is just amazing. Great mom. She's got two kids of her own, so now I'm a grandfather as well. And
completely different journey, right?
Oh man, but I love it.
You get to love them like they're your children,
right.
But then send them home.
That's it. And I don't have to be the bad guy.
No.
But she's amazing, and I just can't say enough about her. Lots of big words that I could use. She's phenomenal. She's just an amazing all around. Very driven, and you've met her, but.
Right.
But yeah, and then my oldest son, it's living. He's doing well. Seth, I want to say he's 25, 26.
Hey, it's going by quick, man. You kind of feel like that's the good thing to touch everything, because you kind of feel like once they start getting older and you have multiple children,
right.
The years start ticking by fast. You can't even remember your own age.
Right.
Once you get to a certain point.
The thing about it is my birthday was a week ago today.
A week ago.
Yeah, and my wife had to actually pull out a calculator because I was telling people that I was going to be 53.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be 53 because this happened then and that. And I'm recounting. And she pulls out a calculator and she puts in the date. She's like, no, you're going to be 52.
Yeah.
So if I lose track of my own age, it's hard for me to keep track of theirs. But yeah, I think he's 26. And then my youngest son, who's also a Marine, and Simplified, few good men.
Yes.
But he is 22, 23, something like that. So, but real good kids. Different paths, but all of them doing their thing. And making us proud.
That's a blessing, man. Let me ask you. Let's share with the public. What do you do for a living? I'm multiple, not just the pastor, because you're a pastor to pastors too. So
yes.
Let's find out who you are a little bit.
Oh well, I am a pastor, and I was just sharing with someone earlier that we actually closed the doors of our church.
Okay.
And,
on Elmwood Ave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Things, circumstance, the whole nine.
Right.
But God was all in it. It was a plan of God, and that's how it is. A lot of times is in the middle or in the midst of what you're going through at that time. It doesn't always feel good, but ultimately when you can kind of look back on it, you can see where God's hand was involved, and truly, my wife and I, like I said, we've been blessed so much, and so now we're actually fellowshipping with the church in North Providence, which is where we moved to.
Okay. Is that the same church as Pastor Tony?
Yeah, Pastor Tony Paolo.
And what's the name of that church?
Now the church used to be called North Providence Assembly of God. Now it's called Restoration Church.
Restoration.
Yeah, and so we've been there. Hasn't even been that long.
Now, what's the makeup difference of being North Providence Assembly to Restoration? What's the makeup difference? What is there any difference of where it used to be to where it's at now, where it's elevated to now?
Well, I mean, in the way Pastor Tony describes it is that, they realized that the church was really about restoring lives, restoring people. And so it was only fitting. There's plenty of instances, actually, even in the Bible, where transition and change happens.
Okay.
A lot of people get confused because, somebody starts off with one name and it changes to another.
Right.
But that happens as a result of evolution or how things are. So, for example, there was this dude named Saul in the Bible, has an encounter with God, and God changes his name to Paul. And so the evolution of the church was all about this. So why not be this? It's
embrace it.
Exactly. So they changed their name, the identity, basically conformed to the identity or the mission of the church. So it was all about restoration.
That church personally is special to me. It'll always have a place in my heart. That's where my son's baptism, his dedication. Okay. My son Jason passed away. His dedication was done at that church with Pastor Tony. That's I love that church. I love the feel, the vibe nowadays. It just makes you feel like you're welcome, no matter what your background is, race, creed, color.
Right.
They make people feel welcome coming through the doors. It doesn't matter about your money, your status in society. They're very comforting. The people that are there are extremely confident, and they come from all walks of life. They don't just represent one particular person.
Right.
It's a rainbow over there, if you will.
It's amazing. And that's the way it should be.
Right.
And so for us, we were kind of beat up from pastoring. We pastored Holy Zion Church for 20 years.
Okay.
And we went through all types of ups and downs throughout that, and it was a lot of hurt places even, and at the same time there were great rewards from pastoring. And again, doing that caused me or allowed me to meet people like you.
Right.
But it was traumatic. It was hurtful. Something that we literally picked our family up and moved here for.
Right.
And having to just kind of say, you know what, enough is enough. And the truth is that there were many aspects. The place that you were talking about, we were renting that space. We really didn't have the numbers or the membership to really just sustain it. And so a lot of times I was going in my own pocket.
Wow.
And ultimately, to be perfectly honest with you, Jay, the reason why we decided that, enough was enough and we were closing the doors is there was 1 month where I had to choose either pay the rent there or pay my light bill at home. And so I really was like, you know what, if I'm having to make this choice, there's something wrong with this.
Right.
And so as a result of that, and this was May 2019, we decided, you know what, this is it. And so we actually just kind of did nothing for a while, and you know,
That's got to be scary right there, huh? Having a routine, you know, obviously your faith, you know, in God, you know, you're thinking this is where I'm supposed to be at. God, give me the answers. Why is it not working?
Right.
That's got to be a scary thing. You know?
Yeah, and it was actually a conversation I had with Pastor Tony, and you know, he sat down. He said, "Look, he's like, you've been doing this for a long time. He's like, you've earned the right to have a rest." And he said, "So he's like, if you get up on a Sunday morning, if you want to come to restoration, you know, feel free." He said, "But if you also get up on a Sunday morning and all you want to do is read a newspaper," he's like, "do it."
Right.
And so it was almost as if that kind of gave us the you know, authority or gave us the approval to do those things. And so we did, you know, we
well, he's not really speaking from for himself to you. He, you know, you got to believe that he's in tune right now. His radio wavelengths. Hopefully, you know, you pray that it's online what God's blessings are, you know, and he's translating it for you, and he's giving you an affirmation of what you should be doing. Because in your head, you know, you're an intelligent person, and in the head, you know, you can hear stuff.
Right.
Now, when another person says that to you, it's got to have some, you know, that confidence and comfort.
It did.
Yeah, that's good. That's a blessing.
You know, and so my wife and I, we just kind of, you know, reunited between us, you know.
Oh, good.
And we were joking, but it's like we discovered there was something called brunch. we had never heard of brunch, but
I can't believe that. Not on your Facebook page.
But you know, I mean, Sunday brunch, and you know, being in service, you never really got to take part in that.
Sunday brunch.
So yeah, and so we actually started going to Sunday brunch, you know, and just kind of and so it's probably been just shy of a year that we've been connected with Restoration Church, and
right when COVID-19 kicked in.
Yeah, basically.
What a blessing.
Yeah, and so we you know, we're there, we're involved, we're part of their leadership team, and I was telling John that you know, starting this Saturday, we actually are starting Saturday church at Restoration, and so.
So now, is it for children, adults?
It's basically an alternative to Sundays. You know, a lot of people are concerned with COVID still,
right? And
you know, space.
Also trying to spread it out,
right?
You know,
so basically,
so many people in the same area
all at once,
right?
Yeah, and so you know, the children's church is in effect. So you know, people can come, bring their kids. They'll.
They say Saturday is the real Sabbath, so
it is.
You know, to have it moved on to that day. Hey, is it a coincidence? I don't know.
You're right. Saturday is the Sabbath, but you know, yeah. So that's where we are. Pastor Tony, you know, has given us free reign to run Saturday services. As you know, he's like, do it the way you would do it, kind of thing. And so, but you know, we've really kind of gotten into the flow of how they operate. It's a love, and like you said, it's not just one ethnicity. It's you know, different people, different backgrounds, and it's a great mix.
It's a beautiful mix over there. It's a beautiful mix. So now it's no coincidence that he asked you, because you're a man amongst men, right? So you're a pastor amongst pastors. You help them elevate and teach other people. You have classes and things of that nature. Tell me a little about that. Because that separates you a little bit, you know. Well, I'm not saying that makes you special.
No.
But that separates you.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that, and this comes from, I got saved, or I accepted Jesus when I was 16 years old.
Okay.
And that was back in the mid 80s. And, you know, 16, but my pastors really were about teaching. And you know, they say, you know, you can get up there and say anything and get people excited, but you know, did you give them anything? And so as a result of that, I was taught, you know, and I went through, you know, Bible college, you know, schooling, the whole nine. And so as a result of that, you know, God has kind of equipped me with a level of knowledge. And so, you know, I'm not about the sensationalism, not about the, you know, the emotionalism of you know, the church can sometimes be, but I just want people to hear a word that helps them live. And so, our church, for a period of time, we had our own Bible college, and we were, teaching ministers and teaching pastors and so forth. And so it was really an opportunity. And now that's really where we are, is that we're in a position where now we can kind of give back.
Give back.
We pastored for 20 years. We've been saved for, longer than that. And, my wife and I both. And so now it's an opportunity we can kind of give back.
I know that I'm trying to get some classes with you. I've definitely signed up. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get our schedules, over the past couple of months.
For sure.
To get, but in God, and with God's time, I know we'll get there because it's on my heart. I would love to get, I definitely want to learn some stuff there.
Absolutely.
So why don't we talk about where you're from? Where did you grow up? Where you from? Where your roots at? What gives you the right to be sitting in this chair of dads that been messed up? Where you come from, brother?
Right. Well, I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut.
Hey, it's a tough place.
It's a tough
place.
We tease and we call it the mean streets, but Hartford is it's people don't really think about. And honestly, a lot of folk don't believe that there's even black people in Connecticut, but
Well, because it has that stigma that
right,
the richest state,
Exactly. But so Hartford, Connecticut, born and raised, and I came up in the projects, and single parent. My father wasn't present, and I was basically raised by my grandmother. Yeah. And so in the projects that we lived in. From an intersection, my grandmother lived in the first apartment building and my mother lived in the third apartment building. So I kind of went back and forth. But, my mother got caught up with some guys and things like that. And so I didn't want to be around it. Like I walked in one time into my, where my bed was basically. And, there were dudes there smoking and doing cocaine and things like that. And I just
dangerously.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to be. It wasn't really ever, my thing. I was. It was all around me. I've lived through major drug busts. Where the SWAT teams came rushing in and guns ablazing.
Chaos.
Because there was a big time drug dealer that lived on the first floor.
Wow.
But I've witnessed, I've seen all of this stuff and
firsthand.
Gang violence.
Hartford is known for gang.
Yeah,
big,
yeah. I mean the Latin Kings and they would all kind of come and the I think they called them the 20s or something like that.
20s.
Yeah. And so they would all kind of do their gangbang thing right in front of I would look out my second floor bedroom window and dudes would be down there scrapping knives and the whole nine. So I grew up around it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like I was in it, but it never got in me. I never wanted to be a part of that. The violence, none of that. But
so the serpent never sunk its teeth into you.
I came up hard.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
And again, one of those things I look back now and I can see where even then God's hand was
right there.
Protecting me because, one of the things I always say is that if God didn't essentially arrest me at 16, I can't even tell you where,
you would be, what you'd be doing.
Yeah, because, and honestly, I really don't want to know, but it's one of those things where, I could see where my life was going in a certain direction, and God literally just arrested me. I was telling one of the guys from the church last week, it's like I had a list of things I wanted to do when I turned 21.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to hit the strip clubs, and I wanted to, I wanted to drink. I wanted to do all these things, and God saved me at 16. So I never even got to.
You never got to that list?
Yeah. I mean, I was married, but when I turned 20, I was married. So
so that was.
So that was. But again, and honestly, now looking back and knowing who I am, I think that I have an addictive nature. So I think that
that's
God
why
knew.
You're protected.
Yeah, it's like God knew if I got out there was probably, no coming back. And I've always, and I think I just posted this on Facebook, but I always felt like I was going to die young. And, so I never thought that I would actually even turn 35.
Wow.
And here I am now, just a week into 52. And so, it's like the atmosphere growing up in that place, or growing up, in that atmosphere, that environment, just really kind of, put me in a position where it's like,
I want better for my life. I want more for my life, and let's
absolutely.
Get it.
And not having my father in my home or in my life, good things can come out of death sometimes. And it was actually when my oldest son died that my father was reinserted back into my life.
Wow. So what happened? Like, I gotta hear about this. How did this happen?
So basically, when and my son's name was Timothy, when he died, and he was 9 years old.
Okay.
And so at that point, my father reached out to me, and he was like, I want to be at the funeral. And so he was there at the funeral.
And you have no relationship with this man at this time. No. High and by, nothing. Is like where is the relationship like?
None.
Did you want to fight him? Did you anything like this?
No, I didn't want to fight. I
never had animosity and nothing like that.
Never had any animosity or anything like that.
So you was just like take it as
yeah.
Oh, you want to be there? Okay.
Right. I think growing up, I'd say I probably interacted, and this again is a span of, my son died in 2002. So just kind of doing quick math, I was 30 years old.
Okay.
And
so you're well onto your adulthood now.
Right.
You're starting to become the mature adult, if you will.
All my kids are born at this point.
Okay.
And so yeah, I'm 30 years old, and my father reaches out and says, hey, I want to come to and again, up until that point, 30 years, I might have actually interacted with him like maybe 6 times throughout that whole span of time. And so he reaches out and he's like, I want to come to the funeral, and I'm like, sure, no big deal. And one of the things is I always had said, if he died, it wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah, of course. That's why I was asking that, because I want. You're obviously not a person of ignorance where you're just gonna hurt somebody to hurt them. Like, some people I know were like, you ain't been in my life, kick rocks. You know what I mean? But you're obviously not that person, so you could take it or leave it.
Well, he actually came by the house and stood in our kitchen, and he said, look, I realized that,
Plus, you're a man of faith at this time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started pastoring at 28.
Yeah. So
yeah.
You got certain rules you got to follow. Right?
Yeah.
You got to follow them.
And so he's in our kitchen, and he says to me, he says, I realize that I can't make up time with you. He said, but if you would allow me, I want to be. He said, I want to do right by my grandkids. I want to be in their life.
Okay.
And my wife and I were both there, and we were like, hey, absolutely. And he has been an amazing grandfather
since that point. He stayed true.
Amazing grandfather. Matter of fact, and my son Seth is an amazing bass player.
Musician.
Yeah, fantastic musician. Yeah, he's nuts. I mean, he's out there.
I heard him.
I tell him all the time, I'm like, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I know you're my son, but I'm a fan.
Right.
And but it was my father who gave him his first bass.
Wow.
So it's like things like that I can attribute. And here's
he helped shape his grand.
Yeah.
Although he besides the DNA, he couldn't help shape you.
Right.
Well, he actually got to taught you by what he didn't do.
Right. And that was actually the key.
Yeah, those are big lessons.
I said to my wife at one point, after we had our daughter, I said, I don't have any point of reference for what a father is. It's like I really didn't. Thankfully at 16 when God saved me, there were men in the church who kind of helped mold and shape me. Right. But never.
Especially at 16, you're starving for that. Like,
right.
As men, as boys, as males, we're starving. We really need that.
Absolutely.
And nowadays, especially 80s and 90s, they would turn into the music and culture to raise you, of what a man should be.
For sure.
And thank goodness that you didn't do that. You turned to good influence.
Again, and that's why I use that term arrested, because it was like God just said, you know what, I can't let you go any further.
Right.
So I need you in my kingdom.
I need you to walk this life. Right. Here we go.
Yeah. And so, I basically said, hey, it's fine. You can be in their lives, and the truth is that he and I have an amazing relationship now. And I was talking about, I'm 52 now, but for my 50th birthday, he went and he came on a cruise with us for my birthday cruise.
Like he's been there your whole life, like,
right?
So that's how much you repaired your relationship.
And you know what's amazing?
To take a vacation.
Yeah,
with this man.
yeah. And you know what's amazing is that I didn't have the ability to see him do things as I was growing up, but now it's like DNA is something else, because now that I have the opportunity to see him and I have similar mannerisms, we've got similar taste, and so it's like, so I didn't have the ability to model after him, but there are things intrinsically that's in us.
That's in.
That good or bad.
Right.
And so there's so much more. It's like something deeper to who we are. That whether a father is present or not, we still have the ways, the tendencies are there. And so, it was a hard way to come up. I talked to my siblings, his other kids. I talked to them, and they share stories of how dad did this when they were coming up, and like my closest brother to me, he and I, crazy things. So
here we go.
So I played. All right. So so essentially what I realized is that I was a product of an affair.
So he had an affair,
right?
Because
he was married.
Yeah.
My brother and I are 8 months apart.
Okay. I have siblings like that.
Okay. So here I am on the north side of Hartford, going to high school. I'm playing in the band. I played trumpet in the band, marching band. I was first horn, the whole nine.
Oh, wow.
Here my brother is on the south side of Hartford.
Other side of the city.
Complete other side of the city.
Yeah.
First horn in his high school band.
Same thing.
Marching band.
Mirror image.
And here we are, senior year in high school. They used to bring all the bands together in the city of Hartford, and we would do like a giant musical in like one, like kind of.
So
you're
there with him. Do you know he's your brother?
Didn't know it.
Wow.
Didn't know it. Actually competed with him for one of the solos on. We were playing music from Cats and Memories.
That would be a good video to watch right now.
Man,
you and your brother going at it.
Didn't even know.
That's what I'm saying. And to see the similarities and things of that nature, the competitiveness, and watch the reflection.
Yeah. And so he and I actually were going for the same solo.
Yeah.
And neither of us got it, but yeah, we were both and didn't even know it. First horn in both schools. And
that's good.
Yeah. And so it's crazy, but and he and I actually have a real good relationship now too. We don't talk a lot, but
Well, we're adults, man.
Right.
It's tough to stay that constant contact daily. Me, for my brothers and I, we do the text message thing. We got a group text. Most of the time it's daily, but sometimes it'll go empty for a couple of days. People get busy, but that's the way we communicate, so we can have a constant contact with each other.
Right.
Maybe that might be something you can pick up with your brothers. Add them in a constant group text.
There you go.
Yeah, you guys go.
But I said to him, I said, look, I didn't want to take any position, no slot or anything, that because here it was is that all his life he was the big brother.
Okay. And now you're older.
And now I'm older.
Right.
And so there's a younger brother and a younger sister after him, and so I love them all. I love them all because they've embraced me, and I've since gone to family reunions from my father's side, and the whole side of the family
embrace you.
Oh man, it's
open arms.
So it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Well, how could they not? You're a likable guy. You got that likable quality.
I don't know. I'm
and
me.
you're humble.
I'm me. But it's just been, and all of this has happened in the last 5 to 7 years.
Since you've been here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's just been an amazing journey. And, you know, sometimes, and here's the thing, we never should cut ourselves short. Because as long as we're still breathing, there's always another opportunity for God to make a difference or make a change in our lives. And so, you know, my story or you know, what I tell people is that, you know, just keep breathing. And, you know, even if it's difficult to breathe sometimes, even if things kind of feel like you're being choked out, you know, it's like just know that if you live another day, that day could be different. That day could be better. And so, you know, that's my thing. It's like my whole life is transformed, just turned around, and it almost to the point where I can't even remember how it was when I was coming up. It's almost as if my father.
It's like a different world, huh? Is that like a different, like a movie maybe you watched or a book maybe you read or something?
Exactly. It's like did
not
I
real.
Actually,
did that really happen?
Yeah. Did I actually go through that? But you know, it's like now I couldn't even imagine my father not being in my life, and you know, I hate to talk too much about him because the truth is my mom's was always there,
right?
And like I said, my grandmother raised me, and they gave me foundation, and you know, I wouldn't trade. And Lord knows, my grandmother, if it wasn't for her, she was where I ran to when the stuff was going on.
That was your safe haven.
Exactly. And, you know, my grandmother would do anything for me. And, you know, she basically raised me. And, you know, not taking anything away from my mother. But, you know, it was my grandma. When I would get into little squabbles in the neighborhood with other kids, you know, it was my grandmother who was there. I don't even know where my mother was. Yeah. You know.
Was your mom, like, ripping and running the streets? Like
not really.
Just busy working and doing whatever?
Yeah, you know, she went through a period of time where she was just kind of living off the system.
Okay.
And I remember one instance where I was sitting in the living room of the apartment, and, you know, the kitchen wasn't clean. And it's not that I didn't have responsibility in the home. You know, I kept my bedroom clean, but the house was a mess. And I'm like, you're here all day. I'm going to school.
Yeah.
You know, I go to school, you're here. I come back, you're here.
People start giving up on life, so then it's hard to do things.
I don't even know what it was, but I remember having, and again, I may have been 16, 17 at this time. And I remember saying to her, you know, you need to get a job. You know, you're.
Well, that's got to be big coming from you, her son. You know.
Yeah, you know, and she didn't. She didn't take it well.
Did it influence her though?
But yeah, she went out and got a job, and she worked from that time until she retired.
Nice.
You know, and so, but it was one of those things where you know, looking back, I would have never had that conversation. You know, not even just the whole respecting elders, whatever. I'm just not a man of conflict. I don't like drama. And, you know, so it had to have been something more to it that
God's message from your lips to her ears.
It was a transformation.
Transformation
moment.
for her, right?
Yeah, and so
that's big.
Yeah, and you know, she was.
That's the power. That's the power of God right there living inside you, brother. Don't try to keep going with the story. Let's slow down a little bit here. You know, that's why we're here. That's why we're here today. You know, that's the power of God working through you. And today's topic was the importance of having faith and belief in your life, having God in your life, and especially for our children. You know, so you know, God had a message, and He used you as His lips to reach your mom's ears, and it worked. And essentially, He's been doing that ever since. That might have been the first time, maybe the first couple of times. Who knows? You know, because I'm sure you have more you could add to that, but you know, you were there, you were in tune, and you had the sense to understand the bigger picture. Oh my God, you know, this lady's here doing nothing. This is a mess. This is not what we need for our life. This is not right. And you spoke up, and you know, God gave you that courage to speak up because that's not even you.
No,
you're telling me that's not even you, and you did it. So that's a blessing right there. You know, let's get into this topic right here of the importance of having a spiritual foundation for children. is there such thing as too early? Is there a time? Is there a time period that you think is better than others? When do you think is the right time that we should start letting our children understand, or find out there is a God?
Well, I mean, from the point that our kids were born, we were in church.
So it's in their DNA at this
exactly.
point.
It was a part of, there was not a Sunday that we were not in church, and we've never, as parents, we never really beat them over the head to live a certain way or anything of that nature, but we modeled it. We were there, and they were involved, and I mean, even if you look at our church when we were here in Rhode Island, they were a part of the ministry,
right?
Whether it be
they had duties to take care of, so the church would be successful.
My daughter was my administrator. She would keep my calendar and help me out in a lot of ways. She was doing praise and worship. She was singing. My son's musicians, and so they were involved, and they're still involved. And so I don't actually believe that we introduced, like, I never had a conversation with them and said, look, you need to give your life to Jesus or anything like that. We modeled it. They saw, and they saw the blessings that God had bestowed upon us. That doesn't mean that we didn't have hard times. There were instances where, I mean, I remember we went a whole summer with no natural gas, so we didn't have any hot water in the house. And so we were taking cold showers or heating up water and taking baths, and we did that for a whole summer.
Wow.
So it wasn't that we had things easy, and trust me, money wasn't flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't making a whole lot of money.
He wasn't living a stereotypical Connecticut life.
No.
Yeah.
And so, it wasn't that we didn't have struggles, but we had a real close family unit. Like, there would be plenty of times where, how people say you rob Peter to pay Paul.
Mm.
It's like I couldn't even rob Peter because I owed somebody else. But basically, I made a point, and even sometimes to a fault, but we would do things like I call Family Fun Day, where each one of the kids would have a choice of where we would go and eat. We would hit the mall, or we would drive down to like Paramus, New Jersey, or something, and I'd just let them buy whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And there were more pressing things that money could have went to, but I thought that it was important, especially because we were involved in the church. Mm-hmm. So they needed that balance. The life couldn't just be church.
Mm. There had to be life there.
There had to be, family time. Like even when we would come here, because a lot of times we were, we were here. We would drive in. We would commute from Connecticut here on Wednesday nights, and then we'd come back on Fridays and stay the weekend till Sunday. And so, I'd take the kids to the beach. There were times, it still surprised me, but not so much now because I know how Rhode Islanders are. But there were times when I would tell people who were born in Rhode Island, oh, we went here, or we did this. And they were like, where's that?
Where's that at? Yeah, you drive more than 10 minutes. People don't want to drive 10 minutes out of their own comfort zone.
Let me tell you.
10 minutes is far.
I heard that when we first moved here, and I never believed it until one day, again, family, we were down in Bristol fishing. One of my sons wanted to take up fishing, so we bought poles and the whole nine for everybody. And we were at Cold State Park fishing, right at the pier. And this lady was like, I never went to Providence until I met my boyfriend.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
She had to have been about 35.
And it's not that far. It's
no.
7, 8, maybe 10 miles away. It's not that far.
And so we made a point to make sure that we balanced the faith along with, living, enjoying one another, being a family, and going places and doing. So we never discounted. There was never a point, and still to this day, there will never be a point where I will choose the church over my family. So
wait. That's a statement right there. Hold on, Pastor D. So let me register that. You'll never choose the church over your family. What do you mean by that? Because in my head, the voices say God first, husband, wife, children.
Well,
this is what I hear.
So
clarify that
again. I mean, there's a distinction between God and His church.
All right.
So God is always number one in my life.
Right.
But there's no way I'm going to choose the church, the function, the organization, the building, or what have you, over my family. And so that's the hierarchy of this actually is family first. And I'll give you a biblical example.
Good. I'm on the journey. Let's get it.
All right. The church didn't exist until the New Testament.
Okay.
So, I mean, even without that, that's the argument itself. So what came first?
Family.
Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel. What was that? That wasn't a church.
Nope, that's the family.
So God was there.
Yeah.
But family came first. And so
hey, I like it. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
So I believe my first ministry is my family. And anything that's going to come to try and destroy or interfere with that, it has to be
starts here.
Yeah, it has to be eradicated. My family comes first, and
powerful.
So yeah, and I believe God recognizes that. God recognizes hierarchy, and it should never be a point where the church hurts my family. And what I mean by that is that if I choose to serve the church, and my family is going without, or they're missing the, I mean, my father was absent.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the church caused me to be absent in my family's life?
Wow.
If I was out ministering, preaching, teaching, whatever, Bible study, the whole nine.
Day in and day out. It's not occasional. You're talking about taking quality time from the family.
And I'm missing football games or recitals and graduations and things like that. What does that teach my kids? And again, God comes first. God is the reason why I'm here. But God would not want me to lose my family over the church. So that's really where I am, is that the family comes first. And
all right, so that's I like that. Makes a lot of sense. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel like, you know what, that's real right there, Jay. That puts stuff in a better perspective. I can add that to my mission statement in life in my mind. We have these things that we have to live by. So that's I appreciate that you clarifying that. Children.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's I remember when I was younger, my grandmother used to force me to go to church. Right? When I was younger, my grandmother. I was raised like you. My grandmother was my dad. My mom was my dad. My grandmother was my mother. For me, that's how I was raised. My grandmother was my mother. She was the loving, nurturing one in my life, and my mom just straight up, was like the hard nosed, listen to
disciplinary,
me. Right? The so-called what the father's supposed to do, right? So, my grandmother would send me to church every weekend. It didn't matter if I was sick or not. I had to go. Rain, sleet, or snow, I had to go. I go to this church called Notre Dame Church on Broad Street in Central Falls, several blocks from my grandmother's house at the time, and I grew up in that church. The first 10 years of my life was in that church. I got to the point though, like, not that I resented it, but I was like, I gotta be here for it. I started playing around in church when I went. I would even go into the kids' classes because I was always more mature for my age. So I didn't really want to hang around. Once I got to like 10, 11, 12, now I'm walking to church on my own at this time. Okay. 10, 11, 12. You're supposed to go with your family.
Yeah.
go to church. I'm 10 years old. Go to church. You know, this is how it was. 11, 12 years, go to church. And I had to walk there by myself, and, you know, and have conversations with God. And I'm like, why do I got to do this for? I remember these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get into church, and I no longer, you know, when I'd go with my grandma once in a while, and she'd send me to that room where the kids are, you know, and be around people my age. But when my grandmother didn't go, which was often to church with me, I wouldn't go to those rooms. I would stay in with the adults.
Okay.
But then, you know, their language, it always threw me off. I always had a problem with their language and the wording that they choose. And they use that old language at that time. It's a Catholic church.
Mm-hmm.
So I started resenting a little bit. I started resenting, you know, taking away from my quality time with my friends, with my family. I got to be here on a Sunday. I should be playing ball somewhere. I should be having fun. So I started resenting it. I remember skipping. I didn't skip many times, but I definitely skipped a few times and felt, you know, I felt like some type of way inside me. But do you think it's forcing a child to go to church or being a part of something is a good thing or a bad thing either direction, or I mean, is it necessity or not necessity? What do you think about that?
Well,
forcing a child,
yeah,
when they don't want to be there.
Right. Well, here's the thing: kids don't want to be in school either.
Right.
So things have to be done in a way that it's the understanding becomes that this is what I need. So there are plenty of times, Lord knows there were times when I didn't want to go to work, but there were things that I needed that work basically facilitated. Mm-hmm. And so kids being made to go to church, that you know, that can be detrimental. There were plenty of instances, and in my church coming up, I could see plenty of cases where a lot of kids who were made to go and never actually found themselves as a part of the church walked away as soon as they could.
Yeah, first opportunity.
First opportunity where your parents were like, you're an adult and you can make your own decisions. They jetted. They were gone. Mm. And, you know, some of them I've seen come back, you know, into their adulthood, come back to church. But a lot of them got caught up and, you know, never made their way back. So there's good and bad to it. But I think being made and not actually, when all there is that, that's not really what it's all about. We have to be integrated. We have to be, you know, entreated into it. There has to be a point where I realize there's a value to what I'm doing. And so this is how I approach many areas or aspects of my life, is that there has to be something more to it. So I'm not just doing something just because of something or one thing. There's more. There's many layers to this thing. So again, my motivation for going to work is because I see the faces of my kids, and I realize that, you know, if I want to keep smiles on their faces, then you know I got to do something. Yeah. There was one Christmas where I worked at Circuit City and my full-time job because I knew I wanted to have tons of presents under that Christmas tree, and so I needed that extra income. So we do what we have to do, but that was my motivation. So do I want to work? No, I don't necessarily want to work, but my motivation. So there was more layers. There was something more to it. And so if you get a kid in church, or if you get a kid in the way of God, or you know, just believing in something more, something bigger, there's something greater than just me, then there has to be something that shows them the benefit of that. You know, when I used to go on speaking engagements, or the church would celebrate, you know, me as the pastor, and we would get like a large donation, I would actually sit down with the kids and we would actually count what
made it a family affair.
Yeah, you know, and they would see, and then they would also see that these blessings, that, you know, people giving or donating or you know, giving us, raising an offering for us, they would see that this was also what facilitated my new Jordans, or
or the lights, the rent,
right,
food,
food, all these things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the aspect. So I think that actually translates to why my kids are still in service to the church or in service to God right now, is because it wasn't just the preaching, or it wasn't just the going to church and even feeling the good things that can come from that, but they could see that God was making a way for us as a family. And I'll tell you straight up, there are things that I have now. I am so much greater now because of God than who I could have possibly been without Him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
and that's just a fact.
That's just a fact.
That's just
and
a
it's
fact.
not just material.
Right.
Even though, there are material things that I don't think I would have attained if it were not for having this relationship with God in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But the connections, the people, there's a joy that I receive from helping somebody. Just encouraging somebody, or there's this feeling that you can't buy.
It's kind of like I don't know, it's a shame to compare the two, but like a drug, like an adrenaline, like
it's absolutely a drug.
An endorphin.
It's
set
absolutely
off in you.
Yeah. And so it's the same motivation, the same thing that drove Jesus to do what He did. There was one passage of scripture where He was telling people, look, I'm not doing this for food. I'm not doing what I do for riches or anything. He said, my meat, or in other words, my sustenance, is to do the will of my Father. And so He says, I must work, or I must do the things that my Father sent me to do. And so that's kind of how it is that there's a joy seeing somebody who, and I grew up, on the corner of Albany and Vine Street. And for those of you that don't know where that is in Hartford, it's a corner where there was a church across the street, and the church that I went to was on the opposite side, across the street. But in the middle of that was a drugstore, and all there was in my neighborhood, because that's where the folk would come and get their Thunderbird and the what was it, Night Train or something like that.
Drink, yeah.
Yeah, and they would sit out there with their packages, in the paper bag, in the brown paper bag, and just drinking all day, interacting with people who were intoxicated, drunk, the whole nine. That was my thing all day, and that was my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so these people, when I started going to the church, they would wander into the church. I gravitated. It's like seeing, people who are strung out and so forth, just messed up.
Really messed up.
Yeah. And they would come into the church every now and then. We do like a free dinner for the community. And they would come into the church, and we'd have conversations with them and sit down and, try to introduce Jesus to them. And to see somebody come in just blitzed out of their mind and leave accepting Jesus, just the transformation, it's like even on their face you can see it. There's a difference.
It's a sort of gratification that you have inside, knowing, this is the work, this is what I meant to do. This is what I'm meant to do, and it has to fill you. That's filling you up right there. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, here's somebody who came into this situation hopeless, who left hopeful, and just that little bit. Who knows what happened after, or what life threw at him right after that. But knowing that you had the opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life, there's a joy, and I don't have to worry about, after doing this kind of thing, I don't have to worry about a hangover in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about,
the effects,
the headache or whatever comes from that.
Yeah.
Because this is pure. It's
good for you. It's good for your soul. It's good for your body. It's good for your mind.
Absolutely.
Your spirit. It's
absolutely.
all around good.
Yeah. And so it makes a difference, and it gives you a reason to get up in the morning. I don't dread opening my eyes. It's like, this is a new day, and what challenges or what things are we gonna face together, God?
Let me ask you this: what would you say to the father out there that's that's down right now. Is feeling hopeless. He's not living his life the best way. He's not. He's not able to do the things he wants to do for his children. What would you tell that dad right now?
Well, I think first and foremost, I would tell him that you're doing the best you can, and again, like I said earlier, it's like tomorrow's another day, so just keep breathing, and it won't always be like this. Things can change. People can change.
I'm a testament to that, bro.
Absolutely,
I am
absolutely.
1,000% testament to that.
And so for that reason, it's like we used to say in the church, hold on till your change comes.
Mm-hmm.
Today's a bad day. You know what? Tomorrow might be a bad day too. But don't destroy today and not know what's happening for tomorrow. So it's like that's what hope is. If the reason I get up tomorrow morning is simply so that I hope tomorrow's better, then you know what? Just see what tomorrow's going to bring you. Mm. And so I would say to a father who's feeling messed up right now is that God has a way of turning sorrow into joy, and the same tears that you cry or the hurt that you feel today, that can be a little lighter tomorrow, but you got to get there. You got to make it to tomorrow.
Yes.
And so if you just keep on pushing, and the key is don't give up. There's a story I heard a long time ago. This guy was, I don't even know if he was climbing a mountain or whatever, but he was on a rope and he was basically losing grip. And, somebody yelled down to him, he's like, what's going on? And the guy's like, I'm about to lose it. I can't hold on any longer. And, the guy says, look, he said, tie a knot in the rope and hold on. Hmm. And so a lot of times, listen, we're slipping. We're about to fall. We're on our way to a point of destruction. But if you could just tie a knot in your situation right now, just if it gives you something to hold on to, that's what you got to hold on to.
Hold on. Find something to hold on.
Yeah.
And hold on to that.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Let me see here. We're right about at the end of our show, but let me ask you this. You got a message. Mm-hmm. Let's deliver a message today to the fathers out there that are out there. Let's encourage them. Dig deep in your heart. Take a second. Let me see you, how the young kids say, go off the top of the dome, flow to the top of the dome.
All right.
Let me see your preaching capabilities.
Okay. All right.
Freestyle it.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I believe that God is the greatest father of all. And God made sacrifices. And we know that in John 3:16 it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him won't perish, but will have everlasting life. So here's the thing. God understands sacrifice. We as men, we have to understand sacrifice. If God can do it, so can we. And so here we are today. We know that God sent his son for us. And so family is important to God. It was his only begotten son. He didn't have any other children. And he was willing to sacrifice his son for us.
Powerful.
So if that example is not enough to say, look, we do what we have to do for our kids. But here's the thing. He sacrificed his son for the rest of us. Because he knew that his son would be the only way, the conduit that would cause or allow man to return back to him. And so God needed Jesus. Understand this. Watch this. There were plenty of instances when we look back into the Old Testament where the children of Israel, and the story says that they were all in slavery and bondage in Egypt, and the king or the Pharaoh at the time didn't want to he wanted to keep them as slaves. And Moses, a lot of people know who Moses is. Mm-hmm. Moses went to the king and he did, that like in the movie, he threw the stick down and turned into a serpent and all of that stuff. And we know the story. The king let the people go, mm-hmm. and they went on that journey, and again from that big movie where they crossed across the Red Sea, and when Moses extends the staff and the water parts and all of that stuff. These people got to the wilderness, and they were in the wilderness for 40 years. They wandered around, and they wanted to actually go back to Egypt and all of these things. But here's the thing. God provided for them in those 40 years. They never needed new sandals. They never needed new clothes. The Bible doesn't even tell us anything about that. He gave them food. He gave them warmth. He gave them, it said a cloud by day and a moon by night. So in other words, he was shielding the sun from burning them, and he gave them, and they gave them a fire at night to keep them warm and so forth. So God provided for them that whole time while they were in the wilderness, while they were trying to get things together, that whole period of time where they were trying to make things right. And here they were, they wanted to go back into bondage. They wanted to go back into slavery. And it's like, wait a minute. God has made a way for you, but all you got to do is just keep on moving toward the promise. Because the whole idea was that they were going from Egypt to the promised land. So what we have to do is we have to keep moving toward a promise. God has promised all of us have a promise on our lives where we can be better, things can be better, things can be different, things can be great. But we have to keep moving toward that promise. And so here's the thing. God didn't understand. He's like, wait a minute, I'm providing for these people, I'm giving them food, I'm doing all this stuff, and they're still turning to idols, they're still doing their own thing, they're sinning, they're doing the whole mess up thing. And God said, you know what? I'm going to send my son Jesus because I need to understand what they're going through. And so he sent Jesus. God needed Jesus to experience all the stuff that Jesus was tempted. Jesus was approached by the devil. All of these things, and he didn't sin. And so now God is like, hold up. If my son can live and endure and not sin, then so can we. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to live a perfect life, but now we've got Jesus as this intercessor. So every time that we mess up, Jesus is saying to the Father, you know what, forgive them. They belong to me. I got this. And so understand this. If we just keep our eyes on Jesus, then we have to expect that things are going to get better. Because he's making intercession with the Father, and the Father is saying, you know what, my son's got this covered. And he sent us a comforter. And so we're not alone. The Holy Spirit is with us, and we have the ability to tap in to that resource, and we can see our lives transformed if we just yield. Now, listen, if I'm nothing, I'm real. So I understand. I didn't get caught up in a lot of that stuff, but I was around it. And so I see the destruction. I see the stuff that it can cause. I didn't drink because I didn't like the taste. A kid hit me one time. One of the little kids in my neighborhood coming up filled a water gun with he peed in a water gun.
Oh man!
So
he hit you. You didn't hit him.
Well, here's the thing. So, and now I'm off topic, but he peed in a water gun.
Sorry about that.
And so no, it's all good. And so I'm like, I'm wanting to impress some of the kids, and so I stand up and I'm like, and I know his name. His name was Myron. I mean, this had to have been about
Myron, you
40 years ago, 45 years ago, and I'm like, shoot me, Myron, shoot me, and he sprays me right in the face, and I'm like, this ain't water.
No. And
so now, years after that, my mother's boyfriend had a beer, and when I smelt the beer,
it reminded you of that. So that instantly set you off how like a pregnant woman would eat something that they've grown to know and love.
Yeah.
They have it one time while they're pregnant, makes them sick, forget it.
Done.
Same. I can understand.
So I didn't drink because of that. I didn't do any type of drugs, no marijuana, nothing that, because I didn't want to lose control. I never wanted to be that guy where the next morning somebody, a homie or girl is like, oh, you were amazing last night. And I'd be like, I don't even remember last night. So I never wanted to be that person. So it's like...
I think you used the wrong word for that, amazing. To get the point across, you're supposed to use like a down word.
Well...
You blacked out or something.
Yeah, you did some crazy stuff.
There you go.
But I never wanted to... So control is what kept me from doing drugs. I always wanted to be in control. And so now here it is, I've surrendered my life. So I'm no longer in control.
That's a paradox right there.
Yeah. And the Bible says it like this: if you want to gain your life, you got to lose it. Right. And so, this is my thing: is that I believe that foundationally, if we learn the again, you used the good word paradox. If we learn that coming to Christ cost you everything, but in return you gain everything, why wouldn't you at least give it a try? And what's the worst thing that could happen? Your life doesn't change.
Yeah, you're right where you're supposed to be. Right where you started, right?
But the best thing that could happen, and again, now we're talking about hope, is that your life could be better. And so that's kind of how I walk this way, is that, I have a hope, and some call it a blessed hope, but I have a hope that tomorrow's going to be better. Today was a good day. I didn't have to use my AK.
Okay, Ice Cube. Okay, Ice Cube.
But today was a good day. But guess what? Tomorrow can be even better.
Right.
And so that's why I'm holding out. Until I give my last breath, I'm holding out. Tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Pastor Donovan, you are a blessing, brother. You are a blessing. Man, I want to thank you for coming onto the show. This is our second podcast. How do you think we're doing? You think we got a good message here?
You got it going on.
You think we got a good message?
Yes.
Help build up our dads.
Absolutely.
I want to say, before we sign off, I just wanted to show some special love today. My cousin Justine, I might be biased saying this is a pretty amazing thing, but my cousin Justine started a new business, and what do you think about this?
I love it.
You feel the quality? You feel the quality? You feel it? Touch it.
Oh boy,
it's nice, right?
And see, you know what? Watch this. A lot of women will want something like this because they lay down on pillows and it pulls their hair and messes and rats up their hair.
Feel that, right?
Yeah, no, this would do it right.
Nice, right?
Just like a bonnet on your hair.
Listen, she might have to pay you for that commercial right there. So reach out. I'll put a link. Reach out if you're looking for obtain something like this. She does keychains, shirts, pillows.
That's amazing.
I know the list is long. But I thought this was an awesome gift. I'm going to showcase it today on the show. Pastor Donovan, I appreciate you coming out here today. I'm hoping, I'm throwing the invite right now. No shameless productions here. I'm throwing the invite right now. As our podcast grows, I am hoping to throw a fishing line out there, and we can be a fisher of men and add you as a segment onto the show.
Absolutely.
Give it some thought, pray on it, and hopefully the answer is a yes.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
yes.
Because as time goes on, the quest is to make us the best dads we possibly be, right?
That's right.
And what's the best thing? The foundation, and in foundation you need God, and brother, if I can add that to the segments and reinsert that all the time, finance, love, home, stability, and ultimately, I feel like that message can get to somebody, and it'd be a blessing to have you as part of the bigger picture right there.
Absolutely. I just appreciate who you are. You're genuine, and you're one of those brothers that if you mess up, you're not gonna hide it. You're gonna straight up. I think if you were in the garden when Adam ate the apple or whatever the fruit, I think when God said what you do, I think you would have fessed up. So if you were in the garden, you would have helped us all out.
What's wrong with that? I told you not to eat it. I'm sorry.
I get it.
I'm sorry.
But it didn't work out that way. But you're a genuine brother, and that's what gravitates me toward you. Is that I can be real because you're real, and I can be honest because you're honest, and I know exactly where you are. And so for that reason, I don't even have a reservation. If I can be there for you, I'm there.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much, man. Amanda, I have a new producer. Not that Steve wasn't a bad guy at all. He's a nice guy. Steve, you are fired. You are fired. Amanda Lynn stepped up to the plate, and she hit it out the park. Thank you for producing a great show. Thank you for joining a dad's perspective. I think. What do you think about having a mom as a producer for a dad's perspective? Right, it helps level it off. Right,
it does. It does.
So this way we're not get one-sided. I think. Right.
Yeah. And I don't know who Steve is, so Amanda's my favorite.
Oh, the vote is with you. The vote is
Much
with
appreciated.
You know, so Steve, we love you. You know, you're still part of the show. You still be part of the show, the programs and stuff. We still want to grow with you. But Amanda said you are fired. Amanda, tell me he's fired.
I'm sorry, Steve. You're fired.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our time. I am Jay Chappelle. That's Pastor Donovan.
Yes, sir.
And for Amanda, we love you. Make sure you come back because we're just trying to build the best dads we can possibly be. I want to be the best dad I can possibly be. Will you join me?
Yes, sir.
Babe, take us to the credits.
You got it.